Governor Gavin Newsom set to discuss how businesses are adapting to the reopening plans.
He's meeting with one small business right now in Sacramento. Let's take a listen.
None have been fired. Some, unfortunately, furloughed because of the shutdown, because of the stay-at-home order. As we move, as we announced this week, to modify in a meaningful way into what we call Phase 2, our stay-at-home order, it's businesses like this that can reopen for curbside pickup. Rashawn and his wife have been doing their best under the circumstances here to provide online sales and to keep the doors not physically open, but open in the sense that the business is still able to operate and generate a little bit of cash flow. But at the end of the day, that's just not going to be enough to sustain this business for much longer. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to work with businesses like this to make sure when we do start to open up the economy, we do so in a safe and judicious way, with the indicator of health guiding our strategies, guiding our decision-making, always on the basis of public health. We're in a position here in the state to begin to move into Phase 2 because millions of Californians have appropriately distanced themselves from one another through the stay-at-home order and the physical distancing guidelines. We've been able to flatten the curve in a meaningful and significant way over the course of many, many weeks. Just yesterday, we put out a report card on our progress using those 6 indicators that guide our determination of whether or not we can move into these new phases. We talked yesterday about new tracing and new technology that we want to put to bear to begin to track, isolate, and quarantine individuals. Tomorrow, we'll have the first cohort of tracers that will start taking our virtual online academy courses in partnership with UCSF and UCLA. We made a final commitment to advance that effort using a new data management platform in partnership with Accenture, Amazon, and Salesforce that will be providing the ability in real time to share information and collect data on a cross-county basis. That is a fundamental part of our efforts to provide not only the workforce 10,000 in Phase 1, 20,000 within 2 months of tracers, disease detectives, and lexicon perhaps more easily understood, that will be deployed all throughout the state of California. Bottom-up, county-based led effort, utilizing the existing workforce of roughly 2,800 or so folks, just shy of 3,000 individuals that are currently doing tracing in the state of California. That augmented resource will allow us to move into this phase with our capacity in real time to determine spread and be able to isolate individuals, quarantine individuals in a way that will allow us to methodically move through this phase into subsequent phases. Remember, deaths, hospitalization, and ICUs are lagging indicators. The more testing we do, our ability to track, to trace, and to isolate and quarantine, that allows us more real-time information that allows us to move into this new phase and stay in that phase in a very, again, judicious and thoughtful way. This whole effort's been led by our health team in partnership and collaboration and counsel with public health officials all across the state of California. As we said yesterday, we'll be putting out the guidelines this Thursday, and businesses like this can start to open as early as Friday of this week. We were talking to Rashawn just a moment ago what that would look like for him. And it's a supply chain issue, not just a customer interface issue, as he reminded us. It's the things that come through the back door, meaning product, that are displayed here at this business, and it's the ability to sell those products in a very thoughtful way with a deep framework of sanitization, a deep framework on protecting his employees, as well as protecting his customers. So from the supply chain, which will begin to open up manufacturers, logistics to support businesses like this in this new phase, it's incumbent at all levels that we have strong protocols in place, but none more important than appropriate protective gear. The PPE side of this is so foundational in our ability to open up, to make sure people have the appropriate face coverings, that they have the support they need to keep these facilities, to keep these retail establishments sanitized, and to make sure customers, again, and employees are safe. We're very pleased in this state to have had substantial success in the last week in procurement of tens of millions of new masks that are now coming in almost on a weekly basis. Let me be specific. We've been able to distribute 14.2 million procedure masks, these surgical masks, since the beginning of this pandemic. We currently have an inventory of 19.3 million masks that have come in over the course of the last number of days. We'll get those masks out as soon as we possibly can. But I can assure you, in all of these months, we have never had so many procedure masks, surgical masks in our possession, now able to be distributed all across the state of California. Again, we've prioritized our healthcare professionals, we've prioritized our first responders, our skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, but we will, as these product lines begin to open up and we have more of this product start getting out to the front lines for our grocery workers, get it out to the front lines in terms of our transit workers and our retail workers as well. PPE, not just testing and tracing, is so foundational in terms of moving into this next phase and being able to methodically, judiciously, and thoughtfully begin to reopen up our economy with adaptation, with modifications. The spirit that brings us here today is the spirit that defined the opening of this business in 2014. That's the spirit of entrepreneurialism, a spirit of a mindset that's alive and well in the state of California. It's appropriate that we're in a business that sells California-based products, California-based designers and makers, and brings that ingenuity and that talent to bear in a curated way at this space, and making it available to support our economy, but also to support other entrepreneurs in our economy. It's perhaps a long way of saying this. We're not just talking about one small business. It's the business's impact on that entire supply chain and on the creativity and the ingenuity and the innovative spirit that defines the best of California. Businesses are not just about dollars and cents. They're about community, and they're about a sense of spirit and pride where people can put their wares, put their ideas, and make them real, make them visible, and create opportunities and create, manifest dreams at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, I can say this as a small business person myself, this all starts as a dream. It starts as an idea, pen then to paper, and to see your dream come to fruition and potentially be at risk because of this pandemic is devastating. And so it's a way of expressing not just empathy, but a deep admiration and appreciation for these entrepreneurs that put everything on the line. And truly, everything is on the line as we move into this next phase, to make sure we do it right and to make sure we don't jump ahead of ourselves and have a second wave that then forces us to toggle back and now put back into place the restrictions that we're now in a position to finally loosen up. And so it's a long way of just repeating a mantra. We have to maintain the core construct of our stay-at-home orders and make sure that we are appropriately doing the social distancing and the physical distancing that is necessary at this moment, particularly as we move into this new phase where that behavior becomes even more essential, because we put more and more people at risk as we begin to open things back up. And that's why I cannot impress upon people more that we're not going back to normal. It's back to a new normal with adaptations and modifications until we get to immunity, until we get to a vaccine. We'll get there. That's coming. That will happen. The question is, what happens in between? And in this state, you've just done such a remarkable job keeping that line, keeping our total number of positives, hospitalization, people vulnerable in our ICUs in a stable place compared to many other parts of this country. And I just want folks to know we're grateful to you. You're the reason we're in this position, why I'm here today, and why I'm looking forward to moving through this weekend and begin to see some new retail open up with these modifications, and to start seeing these manufacturers and logistical support begin to take shape as well and help again start to rebuild this economy and get us back on our feet. With that in mind, before I get to all of the daily updates, I wanted to acknowledge a local elected official, someone known very well here in Northern California, the former pro tem, the state senate, now mayor of the city of Sacramento. Mayor Steinberg has been essential and critical in terms of helping guide us to this point. And one thing is clear to me. At the end of the day, we put out these guidelines at the state level, but its application, its implementation is manifested at the local level. And that's why local electeds are so important. Mayors at this moment are so important. That collaborative spirit between the city of Sacramento and the state of California has been demonstrable for many, many years, but notably many months through this pandemic, including the announcements a few weeks back on Project Room Key to help Californians that are out on the streets and sidewalks and in shelters are homeless and get their support. Darrell was critical in helping advance that effort. He's critical in terms of advancing this effort as well. Wouldn't be appropriate to be at a retailer in the city of Sacramento just days away from beginning to reopen parts of this economy with conditions if we didn't invite the mayor to say a few words. With that, Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Governor Newsom. I want to thank you for your steadfast leadership, for your wise judgment, and for leading California back, but in the right and safe way. This cannot be a choice between public health and reopening the economy. We know that we must do both. And so you have now said to us, and we are now on the ground beginning to think about the implementation. It is not a question of if, it is not a question of when. It is a question of how. How we go about reopening will define, as you said a moment ago, whether or not we can move with effectiveness to the next stages and open up more, or whether or not we are going to have to take a small step, a medium step, or in the worst case, a large step backward and keep the economy closed for longer. We know there is only one way to go, and that is forward. And so how we reopen at the local level and throughout the state is absolutely crucial. Whatever may seem like a small inconvenience is not an inconvenience when you consider the alternative. To be able to shop at Rashawn and Maritza Davis's Display California store, but to have to pick up at curbside is no big deal. To make sure that you don't come if you're not feeling well. To make sure that with the work you have done, Governor, to assure that we have more masks, to wear masks when you're out in public, to provide that extra layer of protection, to make sure that you are always washing your hands and that we are always using the right sanitation supplies in our retail spaces. We do all of that, and the governor will then be in the position, we will all be in the position where we can confidently take the next steps and open more and return, yes, not to normal, but to the new normal, which will reconnect us as members of our community, which will allow more of our small businesses to recover and ultimately to grow, and will allow us to see that new day in California again, where we are open for business. Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again, thank you for all your leadership. And again, that central nature of partnership at the local level as we begin the application and implementation with these new guidelines will be coming up on Thursday, and the application and the conditions that we are setting forth through the weekend, over the course of the next few weeks. It is just essential that we get feedback in real time from city leaders, from county leaders, and more important than all, our health directors, so that we are maintaining a public health mindset as our top priority.